players were doing. It was such an important thing to me.
What do you think again about or your opinion about the national team training during the league? The league still play, but the player come to the national team during FIFA match day. I think it's only in Indonesia. Even Thailand now, they don't call the player when the league start.
No, it was a really difficult situation because your players were coming into the training camp tired. And I sat down with Yayan, my assistant, and Joko and Alan and all the other guys and said, listen, we're going to have to come up with a strategy as to how we deal with this, because players have been on the road playing games and training, and then all of a sudden they're coming into the national team, and we've got to take the level higher. They're already tired when they come in, and now we've got to step it up again to play in World Cup qualifiers and to play against national teams. There's no hiding at that level. You know, once you're playing in the World Cup, there's no easy games. These are all, we have to qualify for that World Cup, even to qualify for the qualifying group. So, you know, there are no easy games. So that level has to get up. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to find a way? And we just, you know, that was, a lot of people don't know that the singing, just something that small. You know, we know about it because we would laugh about it every night, but we wouldn't allow any cameras there. There were no press there. No one knew anything about it. But effectively what we were doing was building a strategy off the pitch to allow players to come in, relax, recharge, and really get their motivation within a group to go, hey, come on, yeah, I'm with a good group here, and let's go again, and really invigorate them to then go out and play, because we didn't have the time to train for 3 weeks and make them fit or give them a week's rest, or we just couldn't do these things. So we had to try and, you know, we knew they were tired coming in. That was a fact. So what did we do during training camp? Did we run them harder? Do we train every day, twice a day? Do we just run them into the ground and burn them out so that by the time they come to a game, they're tired? What do we physically do to try and get a performance out of them? And things like, you know, to explain the singing, people won't have heard it before because we kept it very quiet, but all of the players' names would get put in a hat. We'd fold their names up on a piece of paper, and every day 3 names would be pulled out of the hat, and they'd have 24 hours to prepare. And after dinner, they'd have to stand up on a chair in front of the rest of the team and the staff with closed locked doors so no one could take any pictures, and they'd have to sing a song for a minimum of 2 minutes. And then the players would let them know whether they were any good or not. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was great fun watching, you know, we had Bangbes at the time, who was, you know, this shy little 17, 18-year-old having to get up in front of the whole senior national team and sing a song on a chair, and everyone's throwing napkins at him. And it just created this environment where when we went to work, it was hard work, but there was a strategy there to just become a team and to grow together and relax and be invigorated and be motivated by each other. So these are the things that we put in that, you know, it was, I think, really would have worked long term. We would have built a very strong squad, but you know, there was difficulties when the World Cup draw was made. That made things really difficult for us in terms of our timeline as to getting this team competitive.
And then it brings us to the next questions. You know, Tang Cheng Ho, the Malaysia coach, start 2018. Park Sang Ho, Vietnam coach, start 2017. Even Luis Milla need more than 1 year to build the team for Asian Games. You know, do you think time and trust is important for the coach to build a team?
Massively important. And given where we were starting from, you know, we're starting from a point where we weren't competitive. We weren't at that point. But I think, you know, there are a lot of things as a coach that you need to fall in place for you to be successful. During that time with the Azkals back in 2010 in Philippines, you know, we had a lot of luck. Without doubt, we had a lot of luck. We worked hard, but we earned our luck. With Cara, we scored lots and lots of goals in the last 10 minutes of games. You know, we turned things around and things would fall for us and we'd take opportunities. Similarly, with the national team, you go into the draw for the World Cup. You could get anyone from Asia, absolutely anyone. You could have, you know, Japan, UAE, Oman, a really, really, really difficult group. You could have Guam.
I was praying we get
Taiwan,
Uzbekistan.
You know.
Uzbekistan. I was praying we get Uzbekistan.
I really didn't mind, Bess. Honestly, I was in KL, and I knew the presenter of the show, and I spoke to him beforehand, and he introduced me to Tim Cahill, who was doing the draw. I just said to him, just take it easy on us, all right? Just take it easy on us. I went and sat back down, and you know, I'm the only one from Indonesia there. I'm the only one that was brave enough to travel. Everyone else stayed at home. But I'm with everyone else, and all the Malaysian guys are next to me, and the Vietnamese guys, and the Thai guys are behind us. And then they start pulling the names out of the hat, and then you saw Indonesia was one of the first names in, and then they put Malaysia in the same group, and straight away I'm thinking, oh, no, that's not draw. Anyone but that, because as a technical coach, you understand where your team is. You know, that's your job. You need to know what the development of that team's like. Now, the plan was to start here, and the end of 2020 finish here. So it would look like that, the development. But then all of a sudden, that measurement is being moved to here. So all of a sudden now, we were being judged on Suzuki Cup 2020, but now that Suzuki Cup 2020 is now being formed in 2019. In October 2019, we're having to play almost like a mini Suzuki Cup, where everyone's going, well, these are local teams. We can beat them. We can win this. We can get through. Well, no, this is senior national team. It doesn't work like that. Just because you beat them in the past, 4, 5, 6 years ago, does not mean that straight away you're going to go in and we're ready to play them after not even 6 months preparation. So, you know, the luck of that draw, I think as soon as that draw was made, I said to my wife, oh, that's a really difficult draw. And that's not being pessimistic. That's not saying we can't win. It's just simply saying that could have been an easier draw. That's going to be a really difficult draw for us based on what we were trying to do and improve the team. We weren't an established team. We weren't UAE. We weren't, you know, Vietnam currently, who are a really good team. We're still developing. We're getting better. And that development just kind of went out the window, and we had to think about winning games instead of making the team better. And that just changes tactics and strategy. That changes everything.
I agree. And yeah, even Philippines got the easier draw. Philippines, Maldives, Guam.
Honestly, I was looking at their draw, and I'm sitting there looking at ours and looking at theirs thinking, you lucky. And one of the guys from the Philippines comes over and knows me. Oh, coach, how are you? And you can see the smile on his face because he looks at the draw he's got. And then I'm sitting there and I'm having to do interviews afterwards. And I'm trying not, you know, I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm trying to say, you know, but deep down as a technical coach and knowing where the players are and knowing where we are in our plan, the simple fact was we just weren't ready to be tested at that level yet. We weren't ready for it. If it had been anyone else in Asia, we go to UAE, people don't expect us to win. We go to I don't know, anywhere. You know, it could have been anyone in that draw, and the importance of the games would have been less. The expectation won't have been as high. But because it was Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, the expectation went straight through the roof. And it just, from then on, it was a really, really difficult task. It made it very, very difficult.
Yeah, and then, you know, the thing happened, and you faced a lot of criticism from the fans, and some of the fans even insult you. But some fans also still asking you, how's Simon doing? How is he now? Even some of them still asking, how you ease the pain, you know, being criticized so hard. Maybe you are the hardest coach in Indonesia in the past 5-10 years who were criticized very, very hard. You are the only one who take the blame for the lose.
Yeah.
How you ease the pain?
Isn't it?
One of them asking.
It's never easy. It's never easy to take. It's no one likes to be criticized, and not when you. I think you know me by now, Bess. I'm someone who puts his heart into everything. You know, I don't do things by half. I ask players to clean the dressing rooms afterwards. I try and cover everything as best I can, and that's why people who've worked with me in the past tell me I'm a professional coach and I care. Yes. I put everything into the job, and unfortunately, sometimes things outside of your control, you can't do anything about it. And I look back at my time as national team coach, and I think to myself, would I have made different decisions? And I still think, given the situations and given the things that were happening, I would still make the same decisions. So then I walk away from the job saying, well,
I'm thinking the same. I'm thinking the same. Maybe Simon will do the same because he already tried to give his best for the team. I still remember.
Win or lose, I try everything I can to make the team better. It's not in my interests to just be an average team to do a 50% job. You know, and whatever people think of that is whatever people think of that. And the problem is now, though, that social media gives every single person a voice. Whereas in the past, you just have to read about it in the newspapers. And some of those, you could just not read the newspaper. It's very difficult now to get away with social media in the age that we live in. This is the generation that we grew up in now. And I think, if you are to take on a job like this, firstly, you've got to be brave. You can't take this job on without a clear vision and being confident and saying, listen, come what may, I'm going to give this everything I possibly can. I put my name on the contract. I know full well about Indonesia. When it's good, it's great. Everyone loves you. When it's bad, it's bad. Everybody hates you. And that's the price you pay of taking that job on. But it was such a big challenge. I couldn't say no. I had to take the job, especially when it was offered to me. So I don't regret anything. But yeah, it's difficult living through that abuse. And I don't mind if it's credible. You know, if someone like you turned around to me, and I mean this honestly, Bez, if you turn around to me and said, Coach, I think we should have done that better, and I don't think we were any good when we did this, and maybe we should have looked at that. Coming from someone like yourself who saw everything, was there every minute, I would take that in and go, yeah, you're probably right, Bez. I'm sorry about that. You're 100% right. And I would take that as credible criticism. But when you have individuals, bloggers, who feel the need to post messages that say, attack this account, you just think, do you really have nothing better to do than try and bully someone? In this day and age, do you think I'm scared by bullying? Do you think this works? What do you think you're going to do by bullying other than, you know, I just delete the account and block? There's a few accounts out there. And
I follow your step, you know. If I hate someone, just block, because
just block them.
The bad message can come into my mind. You know?
They're talking such rubbish to start with that even if you say something back, they come back with even more rubbish that doesn't make sense. So when you're dealing with someone who's not making any sense and isn't credible, why bother? Just delete. You know, there's one account I know I've had a run-in with in the past, and it goes all the way back to a youth game. And he has a grudge against me because I simply said to him, be better. Be a better supporter than what you're being right now. Just be better. Now, he decided that was me abusing him. That was me saying bad things about him. I got frustrated with him because he was being really loud. I said, listen, be better. Be a better Indonesian supporter than you are right now. So as soon as the opportunity came, and he's hammering me on social media, and you've got all of this whole social media bullying. It's,
you know, in the past 3 years, I promote, you know, never give up, never, you know, stop believing in process and everything. When I talk with a friend, I can explain, you know, what happened in the past during my time in the national team. I can explain everything. Even the fans said, okay, why you guys lose like a team, Vietnam, Thailand, how we can go to the World Cup? And I said, that Thailand is the Thailand who will go to the World Cup. You know, that's the Thailand Chanatip play. Because in IFF, maybe Chanatip will not play. You know? Even Vietnam maybe will play with second team. Because Coach Simon faced the world, not the ASEAN. He was
it's a different level. It's a very different level, and I think we saw that. You know, the level that Vietnam and Thailand are playing at now with their best players on the pitch. Chanatip made Team of the Year in the J League.
Yes, Team of the Year.
5'2". I mean, there's nothing of him. He's like Messi. He's a hell of a player.
Coach Teraton just won the league, J League. Teraton won the league.
Teraton's been playing with Iniesta for a couple of seasons. I mean, you're talking about a different level of football now, and just because it's Thailand does not necessarily mean that this is AFF. We can win this. We can be close.
Some of the fans still think it's IFF, it's ASEAN, it's Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia. We can beat them, and then maybe we can lose against UAE. But still,
And this is what I mean about credible criticism. When it's credible criticism coming from credible sources who know you, who know how hard you work, who know the decisions you made, and maybe they have a credible viewpoint. This is why I used Yayan as my number 2, because at Bayangkara, Yayan was my technical director. He was here, I was head coach. So we were used to bouncing ideas off each other, and I needed that. I knew that bringing him as my number 2, he would give me an opinion. If he thought I was doing something wrong, he'd say. And he'd know that I'd respect that and go, do you know what? You're probably right. Let's try and change something. That's why we worked very well together. That's how we were successful. But when it comes down to criticism that you receive on social media, I mean, some of the things people are saying are just, that doesn't even make sense. Yet you still feel the need to say it out loud. It's difficult to deal with because of the sheer scale of the amount of people who feel the need to say something to you. But the amount of actual times that people have said anything to my face, I mean, there's only been one instance in the last 6 months where someone has done something to my face I don't like. Everything else has been from behind a keyboard. I don't know. am. I've never posted before, so I'm going to put something. This is what happens. And you know, I understand Indonesian football. I understand the supporters. I understand their frustrations. I get that. And I'm sorry the results aren't the way you wanted. I'm sorry we didn't win the World Cup. I'm sorry that we don't have a player that wins the Ballon d'Or. I'm sorry that we can't win the Premier League as well and every other competition in the world. But that's not how football is. And unless you trust professionals who know the game to try and tell you these things, you can't argue with people like that. They just demand everything. And you know, people will turn around and go, oh, yeah, well, this is Indonesia. This Indonesian fans are crazy. You know? Yeah, but that doesn't make it right. That doesn't mean I need to accept it. And not just because I don't speak out about it. The Vietnam interview that you mentioned earlier was the first time I've said anything. I wasn't abusive. I didn't swear and kick off. I just simply said that the expectation was too high based on where the team was at the time. And Vietnam were in a much better position.
I think Indonesia supporter also forget that in 2014-15, we were banned from FIFA.
Yeah, for 2 years. Well, for 2 events, yeah.
It means like when you were in the school, in the high school, you stopped school for 2-3 years and then your friend already in the college. And you can compete with your friend with the college because you lose 2 years.
All of a sudden we expect to go back into World Cup and win. This is the World Cup. This is the biggest competition in the world in any sport. And you expect to walk back in and start winning games. It doesn't work like that.
And coach, someone asking also, there's an opportunity, Coach Simon Mcmenemy come back to coach in Indonesia, or are you giving up already? Are you coming back?
Never given up.
Yeah, that's why.
Never given up. But you know, I've been lucky enough to work in lots of different countries, and in terms of Indonesia, I've been sacked. I've won the league. I've been national team coach, and I've been sacked from being national team coach. So the only thing left for me to do is get a team relegated. Then I've done everything. I've done everything there is to do. I mean, what else can I do in Indonesia? So I don't necessarily want to hang around long enough to get a team relegated. But I think that my experience here has put me in a good position to take my experience other places. I'm not saying that I wouldn't work in Indonesia again. It's just there's a big wide world out there, and a big wide world that understands football. And you know, I want to go and experience it. I'm not from Indonesia. I feel an affinity to Indonesia. 2 days ago, I got an Indonesian tattoo done on the back of in the middle of my back, just because wherever I go, I have a tattoo of my travels and you know, the stories that I create, and I take my stories with me. And that tattoo means a lot to me. It's kind of based on my time in Indonesia. Now, if it's the end of my time in Indonesia and I move on somewhere else, so be it. But I'm not saying I wouldn't work in Indonesia again. It's just, you know, you have to go where the work is, and I'm still trying to provide for my family and build a career. And if something comes up in another country, then that might seem quite attractive.
And coach, who was actually your inspiration when you decide to become a coach? Because back in Scotland or in British?
I've had a few guys along the way, and the thing with myself, Bez, was that I was probably a national team coach back in 2010 before I really deserved it. I was very, very lucky to get that position. Now, we were successful once I got there because of the work we'd done. But in order to get the position in the first place, you know, I was very lucky to get that. So I went from being, you know, a youth team coach to being a national team coach almost overnight. I worked with men before, but all of a sudden I was a national team coach. And that didn't give you a lot of time to be inspired and to go and read books. And to, you know, by that time I already had my idols in my head, but not now I'm going down a new path. Before it was how was I developing kids? How could I make kids better? Then all of a sudden I get pulled away to be a national team coach, and it's a different pool of knowledge you're pulling from. So, you know, there's some guys in the league I love watching. Obviously, I love watching the way Pep Guardiola coaches, but I still don't know if he's the luckiest coach in the world or the best coach in the world. It's quite a difficult.
Yeah, the player very good. Pep Guardiola
players are always good. When he took time out from Barcelona, you know, he took a year out, he traveled around, he watched different, and then he went, Bayern Munich are really good. I'm going to be the head coach of Bayern Munich. And he won everything with Bayern Munich. Then he went to Manchester City with an empty checkbook. He could just he could buy whatever player he wanted. So there's always, I think for me, there's a question there. I mean, his philosophy is incredible, and some of the things he said, but
yes.
It's an interesting one. A lot of people talk about it. Is he the best coach in the world? Or is he the luckiest coach in the world? Difficult one to say. But I like I like the process. You know, you put that papaya process on the bottom of everything that you post, and I think that's true. I love the whole process of coaching, how people get their message across. And I watch coaches coach from. I've watched youth team coaches in Indonesia coach. I've been across and watched Dennis and Des with Garuda Select, and the way they coach is very different.
Dennis.
I've been lucky enough to go onto Premier League grounds and watch Premier League coaches coach. I find the whole process incredible and really very interesting how individuals get their message across when they're not necessarily from that country. They can't even speak the language, but they still manage to speak football. So it's difficult to pin it down to any one. I think if there's only one, I worked with a guy called Jens Bangsbo who wrote many books about physical fitness. He was the assistant coach. He wrote the assistant. He was an assistant coach at Juventus. And I worked with him with some Nike projects. And we were on Inter Milan's training ground. We were working with Marco Materazzi, and there was myself and 2 or 3 other guys who were in the video as well. And I was from England, Marco Materazzi, obviously Italian. There was 2 Spanish guys there. And Jens Bangsbo is Norwegian or Scandinavian. So, you know, spoke Norwegian or Danish. I think he was Danish or something like that. But he spoke 4 different languages in the space of 3 paragraphs in the same, you know, he'd say, come on, Simon, we're going to do this. And then across to Marco Materazzi, blah, 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 and then to the Spanish guy, and then he's back in Norwegian speaking to some. And it was just like, my God, how do you do that? How do you flick from language to language to language to language while still explaining one, you know, he's saying the same thing, but he's just jumping language. I was just amazed by the knowledge of the guy and the obvious education he had to be able to do that. I was stunned. I struggle with Bahasa Indonesia now, and I've been here 3 years. Yet he spoke 6 different languages and still was credible in his job. Was a really interesting, amazing guy to work with. Very, very impressive. And that inspired me to be better. That inspired me I need languages. I need to go and think about how I coach. I need to think about, if I can't talk, how else can I be a good coach? More demonstrations, draw pictures, give handouts, body language. What else can I do to be a better coach? So he really made me think about how I coach.
And coach, the last, how good is your Bahasa Indonesia right now? Bahasa Indonesia. Can you speak a little bit Bahasa Indonesia? Only tidak bagus.
Saya coba sedikit. Saya bicara. Saya Bahasa Indonesia tidak bagus. I try.
Okay.
I can order a pizza, I can have an argument, and I can get home in a taxi. And those 3 things, that's pretty much about it. But on the subject of that, it was interesting. I had a long discussion with Alfred Riedel once. And the subject was, should you learn the language of the country you live in? And there's two kind of schools of thought, if you like. One, you learn the language, it shows a lot of respect to the country that you work in. It shows respect, it shows understanding, you know, you want to be part of the culture, you want to understand things better. Alfred Riedel didn't believe in that. Alfred Riedel said that, you know, he wanted to speak English. And he used Wolfgang to translate everything he said. But he said that, you know, for him, he thought that the players had to concentrate more. And it goes back to something we were talking earlier about in Indonesia. For some players, it's kind of straightforward and easy. They don't have to push themselves that hard. So if I went out of my way to speak Bahasa Indonesia, would players really concentrate 100%? Or would they just be like, coach is talking again. Okay. Yeah. Or they're at national team level now, or they're with Bayangkara and they've got an English guy speaking who's been successful. They know he is. What is he saying now? I don't understand. What is he trying to say? I need to listen to this. And then I have someone like yourself, or I had Anthony at Bayangkara, who's brilliant. He translates, and then they have to figure out what I've said based on what you say, and then the pictures I've drawn and how we demonstrate. So now I'm hitting them with 3 different ways of coaching, as opposed to just telling them what to do. So does that, you know, is my message, is my coaching stronger now because they're having to listen to what I'm saying? Or, you know, would they, if I just spoke Bahasa Indonesia, would they just be like, okay, coach, whatever, okay, we know what to do, okay? So there's 2 ways of thinking about that. And at Bayangkara, not speaking Bahasa Indonesia helped a lot. It really did help because the players really switched on and they progressed at a level very quickly. They got to where
they have to concentrate.
Have to concentrate. So there's 2 ways of doing it. I'm always very respectful. I don't think anyone can ever say I've been disrespectful to Indonesia. I work very, very hard. I still I was at my son's assembly the other day, and he's only 3, and he did his first assembly, and he goes to the New Zealand school. He went to the New Zealand school. They sing the New Zealand national anthem. Then they sung Indonesia Raya. So they sung the Indonesian national anthem, and we all have to stand up. And I start getting emotional. I start tearing up because the last time I heard the Indonesian national team, I had 80,000 people behind me in a stadium, and I was the head coach of the national team representing the country. Not many people get to do that. So I start to get emotional every time I hear the Indonesian national team. People they don't understand. Well, how's that white guy singing the national team? How does he sing in the national anthem? How does he know the words to that? But that anthem is kind of stuck in here now. Now, whether I was good at the job, whether I was bad, that's up for people to decide. But that Indonesia Indonesia, national anthem is in here, and it makes me emotional every time I hear it because it takes me right back to standing on that sideline with the whole of the country standing behind you. It's like that doing jobs like this. You feel everything. It's the best way I can term it.
And coach, maybe the Zoom will end soon because it's free.
No problem.
Do you have the last message or quotes for Indonesia fans, for their football? If you can talk to them, what you want to say? Believe in process and still believe in.
You have a new national team coach come in, fresh ideas, coming from a different background with probably different emphasis. You've already seen a couple of things he's talked about. Support him 100%. Just because things didn't work out for me and you might have been left with a frustrating feeling about the national team, that stadium, as I've said many times, is the biggest weapon the Indonesian national team has. When that Bung Karno is full, it rocks to the point where anyone stepping in there is afraid and scared and worried. And, you've got a new coach coming in. Please don't take out the frustrations that you have about the way I handled the team or some of the results we got on the new coach. Support him, giving everything you have, get right behind him, fill that stadium for him every time he plays, and give him the best opportunity to go and make Indonesia better. Because at the end of the day, any coach coming in, that's all they want. They want the team to get better.
Okay, coach. Thank you very much for today. Yeah.
You're welcome, pal. No problem at all.
It was very nice talking to you again. It reminds me
you too,
the memories, back in last year. After Ramadan.
Difficult spending so much time together and then suddenly, boop, never again. It's weird. It's very weird. But it's good to speak to you too, pal. I hope you're well.
Last year, after Ramadan, we went to Jordania. Long trip. Very long trip.
Yeah, that was a long one. That was a difficult one as well. We were supposed to have 10 training sessions. We only had 4. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, so many war stories, so many things, so many scars that we carry from that. Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay,
coach. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bess. Take care, buddy.
Take care.
Stay
Bye-bye. Healthy.
You too.